Welcome back to the Black and Raww podcast. I'm your host, Tino Kudatondarai Vunzabaya, and I ain't going to repeat that. Here is a podcast that's creating the dialogue and the space for Black men to be their most authentic selves. Now, today, guys, I have an amazing guest on. Ajani joins us on the podcast to talk about his long-held mission. I say held. So, guys, welcome back. Ajani joins us today to talk about his initiative, Brunch Brothers, and how he is changing the conversation amongst men, how he is helping men in the UK to take off the mask and to show who they are beneath themselves. And I really enjoyed talking to him on this episode because it was full of laughter, it was full of insights, it was full of culture, it was vibrant, and his big shone a little bit and had I pretend like I understood what he said. But we talk about belonging, we talk about moving to England and what that change looks like and how he's been able to heal from things himself and how people have tried to put him in a box or to say he should do X certain thing to make sure that he's, can do what he does. But like, he doesn't let people's words define him. He is who he is. And I really can't wait for you guys to listen or to watch this episode wherever you are watching. We are now on Substack too. So if you want to go check out my Substack, that'll be in the bio. But I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Please let me know what you think of this episode. I know I'm asking you early, but I recently went to the podcast conference in London. Absolutely amazing. And they said you need to hear from your guests and your audience. You need to hear from your audience in terms of what do they want? What are they gravitating towards? What are they enjoying? What are they not enjoying about your content and your podcast and all of that? So I want to hear from you here, heard at blackandraww.co.uk. I want to hear from you guys. I want you to tell me your thoughts, your opinions, anything you've got to say. If you join the Substack, then you can comment there or on Instagram because we have a specific account now for Black and Raw CIC. So TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you consume this podcast, leave a comment. I'm going to read them. I want to hear you guys. I want to hear you guys. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Here is my conversation with Ajani. So Ajani, welcome to the Black and Raw podcast. It's really good to have you on.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to have our conversation.
Oh, bless. Yeah. So I think there's probably a lot that we can go into. And if anybody, if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify, will probably be, I will be like patting my head out sweat because 34 degrees. I'm in the top bedroom as well. It's warm.
It is. I had the heater on a week ago, and today I have this fan on.
Yeah.
Welcome to England.
Welcome to England. If you experience 4 seasons in a day, it'd be thunderstorming at some point in the next few days. So we'll wait for that. But and you reached out to me, and when I sort of looked at sort of the work that you're doing, and we had our conversation, I just felt, this is going to be a really good discussion. And I maybe want to start off with sort of your upbringing and your journey here to England. What was that like, sort of being in Zim and then sort of coming here to the cold ass rainy weather of England?
So our move to England was very abrupt. It wasn't something that was planned long in advance. And so we had to hit the ground running, as it were. And so there were so many shocks that happened all at once. So first of all, there's the lifestyle difference. In Zimbabwe, comfort and affluence, to put it simply.
And warm.
And warmth. Yes. Oh man, those beautiful jacaranda trees in the spring, man. Oh, that's one of my favorite visions. Anyway, so there was the lifestyle shock, and then there was the culture shock, whereby even though in Zimbabwe there are lots of different nationalities, who had been living there, right?
Mm,
Um, but in the UK, I saw a broader diversity of Black people. So it wasn't just Black Africans, it was Black Caribbeans, right? Black South Americans, and then all the different variations of Indian ethnicities,
yeah, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, you know.
all of it, all of it. And so it was very shocking indeed, and actually very difficult. It was very difficult, and I would hate to lie and act like as if moving to England was a walk in the park. It was shocking in so many different ways. But being 10 years old at the time, I was filled with curiosity, so I had lots of fuel in the engine to keep on trying to find out what else there is. So
Mm.
we were on buses like within 2 weeks, like getting on bus, something I would never done back home. But I was getting on buses and
You
going
can't get a
across London.
combi back home when you're 10.
What?
They wouldn't find you.
I, I didn't get a combi until I was 23.
Yeah, for
But
those
yeah,
who
so it
don't
was it
know,
was shocking.
combis are lethal. Our version of buses, but very not road safety, are they?
No, no. They call them taxis actually now. Um, and I find that very interesting how things change.
So you were saying you're going on.
Yeah, no, it was just definitely very shocking. And as a 10-year-old at the time, I did have steam and hope. But then in hindsight, it was like, yeah, that was a really difficult time for the first few years at least.
Yeah, I think yeah, coming to England can always be a shock. I know my parents came here when they were around 22, 23. And bearing in mind they left Zimbabwe in December and they came to
Mhm.
England in
Oh,
December.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. So they felt the bitter coldness of England.
okay, okay.
And obviously, what's the dream that they sell everywhere else? It's the land of milk and honey.
Milk and
Um,
honey, the streets are paved with gold.
yes, exactly. And you come here and you're like, what? That's not like that. But I think for myself as well, I came when I was very young, so I think England's all I've ever known. So going back home is sometimes quite nice to be fair, but there's a bit of that
Mm,
dilemma in terms of fighting what is like Zimbabwean and then what is the British side of me. But um there's a lot in
mhm.
terms of trying to figure that out. I don't know whether in terms of obviously you had 10 years in Zimbabwe, so I feel like you maybe were able to form your identity a bit more before you came here. But I don't know, did you have anything sort of like feelings of home? Is Zimbabwe will Zimbabwe always be home for you?
Yeah. So Zimbabwe it's a very interesting one. So even though I lived there for a significant amount of time as a little boy, I definitely formed a sense of identity being a Zimbabwean for sure. I definitely have cultural standing. I speak at least one of our languages
Mm,
fluently, and I maintain that. Do you know what I mean? So for me, in that sense, yes, Zimbabwe will always be home. But similarly, with yourself, when I go to Zimbabwe, as much as I'm gassed every time I land, I'm like, I'm home. This is amazing. Uh, Not everybody at home makes me feel at home,
okay.
and not in like a nuanced kind of like, no, are you sure type of way. They're like,
Mm,
you get it, and stuff like that. And I'm so like, okay,
okay. I know what you're
yeah,
saying, by the way.
no, yeah, like 100%. And that happened to me just a few months ago. I was in Zimbabwe and I had to go and deal with a very important matter uh, um, with law enforcement. And they asked me for ID and I gave them my passport. Obviously, my passport is blue and not green. And so they automatically treated me differently, which I stayed quiet. My lawyer said the less you say,
The
the
better.
better things are. So I was
Yeah.
like, fine. But then there was a moment where it crossed the line, and I said, "Nah, okay." I said to my lawyer, I said, "Excuse me, I've got to say something." And then I just kind of broke out, and I started speaking to them like fully, and I said, "Look, man, like there's some things that we're missing here, and you're not moving correct because you're not thinking that I'm here with you.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
yeah, and then like one of them says, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not just going, I'm not just going," and I'm like, uh, and I said, I understand, I read, I speak, I write, like I may live in England, but I
Yeah.
am a Zimbabwean. So there is a tension there. So answer your question, there is a tension whether or not Zimbabwe feels like home. And it's not because I'm ashamed of Zimbabwe. I love Zimbabwe. I love Zimbabwe. When that plane is touching down in HRE, man, there's no feeling like it. But
Mm.
I just wish that culturally and socially, all my people were more forgiving because I didn't leave Zimbabwe because I chose to leave Zimbabwe. I was a child.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it? It wasn't your choice.
No.
In terms of the
Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, you lot are staying mad at someone who was a child,
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole generation of kids who were minors, dependents of their parents, and there were dire things going on, and then their parents made decisions that they felt were best, and now that we're adults, we are paying tax on that.
Mm. No, honestly, it is that I think that part of it, and it's probably the image that people have of England that it's really like when you get here, everything is cool. Like I was saying, London,
Mm.
um, the streets are paved of gold. It's probably just I don't know. I don't know whether it's sort of that like, oh, you're in England now, so you're one of them, or like it's them versus us, where it's like, not really. I mean, lots of Zimbabweans didn't want to be drove away from their country. Like, if they could have had the life they wanted there, then they would have done that, but they
They would
can't.
have stayed. They would have
Yeah.
stayed. They would have absolutely stayed.
So it is that it is interesting in terms of how that happens, but I wanted to sort of get onto in terms of the work that you're doing, and I know when we spoke you mentioned about sort of volunteering and writing for young people like in around 2013. I guess sort of before, and we'll get on to Brunch Brothers, which is a great initiative. But I guess sort of what had led you to start thinking about that sort of at quite an early age?
So back in 2012, I had the privilege and the honor of performing in the West End on stage
Mm.
in the then Michael Jackson musical. And there's a new one now, which is completely
Oh, there's a
different.
new
But
one. I didn't know
no,
that.
there's a new one completely different. Uh, but the one that I was in, it had ran for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And for me to be part of a, to be part of a cast and a team, some of whom worked with Michael Jackson, was like, whoa. So you can imagine being like 24, 25 years old, and you just landed like this huge role. And somewhere deep down, I knew there was always more after it, but I was so grateful and so happy. But some of the experiences I had in that place and space
Mm.
behind the scenes, and I'm not saying like I've had more than a decade to think about this. I've had 13 years to think about this. Yeah, some of my backstage experiences were absolutely ghastly, horrendous. There were a couple of people who were great confidants and that sort of thing. And the state of the business at the time was still very icky in terms of like how people were treated behind the scenes. And when that job came to an end, and it came to an end abruptly, by the way, I'm
Oh.
not ashamed to say, I'm not ashamed to say that um, they fired me for not losing weight fast enough.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's a bit sus.
it's that is the fact of the matter. What
Mm.
happened is that so on one particular date, I get a call from a producer, and he's saying, "I was in the audience last night. You're looking amazing. Keep it up. Fantastic." 16 days later, the message changed, and I learned that the resident director, who was a black man,
Mm.
had been backbiting, and the very dear person who I'm still friends with today let me in on the whole thing. And that person is the one who warned me that I was going to get fired before I found out. They were prepared to just pull the rug from under me. So in that moment, I said, oh, there's something I need to go back and teach young people here. We have got these ideas and these illusions about what we think life is and what we think success looks like. And I think what we need to do is we need to learn how to be more present in ourselves and what we're actually worth for real before we put our worth in the hands of the next person, before we put our worth in the hands of a producer because he's managing like West End talent or Hollywood talent. So I had like almost like an allergic reaction to show business in that moment. And I wrote my first content to go and teach into schools. And I went and sat down with a very dear friend of mine. At the time, I didn't know him at all, but I bumped into him and I asked through a friend, I said, can I get some time with him? Just 30 minutes. I need him to look through my content to see if I'm on the right track. He looks at my content, he goes, this is great. If anything, you can cut this, and you're great, you're good to go. And so 13 years later, I've written countless courses. I've spoken in hundreds of schools. I've met and worked with a few 100,000 young people. I've traveled thousands and thousands of miles. This year alone, probably 10,000 kids already.
Wow.
Through that. And as you can imagine, the message has evolved and has developed over time because my deep philosophy is like, I cannot know what I know, see what I've seen, and not come back and say to these young people, hey, you better wise up, And what's really special, I kid you not, 3 days ago, I got a DM from a not so young now.
Yeah.
I got a DM from somebody whose school I visited in 2015.
Okay. Don't leave me hanging in suspense. You got to say what it is now.
He was just saying, you have always been my inspiration. I don't know if you remember coming to Lyme High School in 2015/16. And I was like, I remember, and I remember this person. It's not everybody that I remember. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I remember him because he really was moved by the work that we did. And for a few years after, he would check in every now and again. But it's been 11 years, and so yeah, it started 13 years ago. After out of a really horrible situation, but instead of licking my wounds, I was like, no, I'm gonna get creative and I'm gonna start speaking to young people. And for that generation, there's now another generation under them. That generation got served, and now they're serving the next generation. And a couple of my young people, one is in Shropshire teaching maths and English to prisoners, to male prisoners. And so many of them are doing so much wonderful, meaningful stuff. So yeah, man.
Wow. I mean, like there's so much to digest in that, but I think what's really interesting is that like that director, that producer, I mean, I think Hollywood and West End is probably really cutthroat, isn't it? It's probably like you don't look the part. Even you could probably be the best actor, but it's like you don't look the part, or your voice doesn't sound like how I want it to sound. Like I can imagine it's probably quite a cutthroat environment, but I don't know. I just feel like that probably could have gone of two ways. You could have maybe been like, no, I'll fight for my job. I'll lose weight really, really quickly and try to like mold yourself into who they wanted you to be. And I think there's probably quite a few people and maybe quite a few young people, or young adults that are going through that don't know their own self-worth yet. And they try and mold and change who they are to try and fit someone else's narrative of them. And I think that probably, I mean, it is very positive that you were like, nah, forget that. I ain't changing for you.
What happened is that around that time, it obviously, when I was being bullied at work, I wasn't getting any support from my agent at the time. And I remember like having anxiety, and I didn't know what anxiety looked like or felt like in my body. And I remember one night I went to sleep and I was just like scratching, I was itching, I was scratching. And I woke up one morning and just on my arm, there was just a little line, like when you scratch, like just a little mark, but it leaves a score. I did that, and it just had like a little tiny line of dry blood, nothing crazy, just a superficial scratch. I woke up and I saw that, and I said, bleeding over money. bleeding
Over money.
over money. Me, the child was born to the parents that I was born to.
Good.
So then that happened, and then I found out shortly that they were going to find me. And trust me, I had my eye on every single. I was privy to everything everybody was saying, and I was just so cool with it because I was like, you know what, this job is everything to you lot. That you will sacrifice your dignity.
Mm.
I will leave. I will leave, and I will build something else because this is not a rejection; it's a redirection. And I really I believed it then, and I believe it now.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of some of the work that you're doing that you've done with the young boys, I guess what are maybe some of the themes that you've been seeing that they've been talking about? Like, I know this generation of young people, I think that I think personally I think that they probably all have the same difficulties in a certain essence, but it just manifests differently, like with in the introduction of technology and stuff like that. But as you were saying, you've been doing this since 2013. So I guess like what are some of the things that you're seeing that young boys are talking to you about and sharing with you?
Well, so I'll go back to before the 13 years because the 13 years is when I started uh, actually actively going out to schools and and then a few years after that is when I specifically started reaching out to the young men. Now, 20 years ago is when I was first introduced to some of the signs, if you like, that something needs to be done.
Mm.
I remember being very frustrated because I wasn't feeling seen, I wasn't feeling understood, I wasn't feeling heard. And so there were other brothers, not much younger than me. So say I'm 18 and this brother is 15 years old, right? I'm one of the oldest in youth group, right? And then he's, like he's in the middle because we've got like the year sevens and the year eights, and like everyone runs on them, and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And then so the 15-year-old, like there's this one particular guy, he would moan, just moan, and it irritated me. Now, from my lens, I was thinking, I don't know what you're moaning for because you got your passport. I didn't have papers at the time. You're lazy. You don't want to get a job. You don't know what I would do to work.
yeah.
Um, you don't have the same social constraints because this is your neighborhood. This is not my country. Yeah. So he annoyed me. His presence, the sight of him, annoyed me. And then and then he'd come in, and then on top of that, the girls like, I was like, get out my face. And then one day he comes into the office, and he was genuinely upset. And he was upset in a way that it kind of cut me.
Mm.
And then I heard what he was upset about, and it was a familial dynamic that I was familiar with. And I was like, oh. And then his behavior started to make
Starts to
sense.
make sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you know how you said that it shows up in different ways in different people? For me, it showed up in performance, singing. I sang. I want to give the best worship session you've ever seen. I'll help, I'll do this, I'll come to your house and cook for you.
Yeah, yeah,
See
yeah.
me, accept me, receive me. His thing was, I'm gonna moan. I'm gonna do things out on road, and I'm gonna catch the attention of somebody because at home it's
I'm not
not doing
getting
the
that
things
attention. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
correct. And so I pray he's still alive and still with us because I would love to see him and say, do you know what? I want to thank you for just being you because that was an awakening moment for me.
Mm.
All those years ago, that was actually 19 years ago. 20 years ago is when I started community stuff. 19 years ago is when this encounter happened with this particular young man. And he went from being someone who irritated me to me being one of his closest confidants. In fact, the next time he got arrested after that, he called me.
Okay, wow. From not liking him to being his one phone call.
To being his one phone call, and I went to the police station. They thought he stole a bike. He didn't steal the bike. We had lent it to him. I had done a project where I bought like 12 bicycles, and young people could borrow them if they wanted. And then so he came and he borrowed a bike, and they're like, "That's not your bike." He's like, "Yes, I borrowed it," or "We don't believe you." Anyway, so I just
Police
noticed
in
that we're
London. We won't get into that.
come on. So to kind of give you a more solid answer, that young man was a representative of many young men I met over the following years who were going through similar things to what we've all been through in terms of isolation, figuring out identity, trying to address masculinity, trying to address things like faith, philosophy, sexuality, all those things, trying to figure those things out. And the way that it all played out was different for every single person. So when I saw those different expressions, I noticed that, oh, so we're all really actually feeling the same way. So someone just has to be bold enough to say it first, and
Yeah.
then we can get into the conversation. What's the worst that can happen? So the first time I ever did that was at a house party in Peckham. I will never forget. And there was this
House
one guy who was
party. Wow.
there. Ah, yo, the house party became where it was at. Like if you there was a time where if you came to a house party and I was there, like there was a therapy section. Like there was
Yeah, the little corner, just like y'all in the corner, like
exactly the corner. And I remember this guy, for the life of me, I don't remember his name, but he was there with his girlfriend. And I remember like he was such a jovial guy, really bubbly, just so energetic. And him and his girlfriend, it just seemed like they were like really like close, like friends, but going out. It was so cool. So we're all there, we're having a good old time. And then just like something happened to me in the kitchen. And I looked at him and I just I saw in his eyes through him. And I said to him, I said, "You if people took you more seriously, don't you?" And he goes,
yo, why you paying for my soul?
and then he tapped his girl and said, "Hear what this brother just said." And then he told her, and she goes, "Hold my lace, hold my lace. How did you know?" From that moment, I was like, "Yeah, this is my bag." From that moment, I didn't always do it correctly. I didn't always do it properly. I wasn't always responsible, but we're talking about more than 15 years ago.
You learn,
okay.
man. You learn. It's okay.
You learn. Yeah. But it's a very scary thing to discover that one can do, because that's access to people's lives without them saying you could have access. So I've had to learn over the years to see what I see and then just respectfully let it be, unless they bring us up.
Unless they there's that, yeah, they bring it up, or there's the invitation for that to happen. And I think probably the bravest thing is to like acknowledge it and sort of still be able to maybe be reserved about it and learn and grow from that, because you easily could have just been like, "Bang, I know what you're going. I know what you're like," a bit like Steve Harvey sort of just like energy, like
yeah.
But I mean, I think that sounds really good. And I guess in terms of Brunch Brothers, that sort of really flows in terms of being able to. Well, let me not talk about Brunch Brothers. Let's have you speaking about it, because I think, by the sounds of it, it's a really good initiative. And I think brunch is usually like felt like feminine, like, oh, girls go for brunch, or like bottomless brunch,
Correct.
prosecco's, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, correct. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of deconstructing in what that is as well. So yeah, just tell me about it.
So Brunch Brothers is an overall concept. It landed on me 2017, and I just been through. I mean, I was still in a really horrible place. Like, myself and a very good friend, we were friends at the time, not friends anymore. And that ended, and it was horrible. It was ghastly. It was horrible. And then another friendship got all twisted up and crazy, and then all within the 6 week period, two of my closest friends, like two close brothers, and my then girlfriend, all gone in like the space of 6 weeks. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Yeah. And I remember one day just getting on my knees and crying out to God, saying, "This better be good, whatever it is that you're about to put me through. Because I've got nothing else, I've got no one else, I've only got you." And so around that time, there was another brother who I didn't know. I didn't know him, but through a mutual friend, he found out that I needed somewhere to live, and he sent pictures of his place and said if he wants it, he can have it, and he welcomed me. We greeted each other when I had my things. And he let me move into his home in January 2017. And fast forward a few months, after reconnecting with some other old friends and just seeing what was going on around me, and also being around my successful friends and seeing what they were going through, I was like, okay. So then one day I was like, I'm going to put together a brunch because we need to talk, man. This is ridiculous. And I did consider all of the sort of connotations around brunch and everything. And I said, look, man, I've gone through a lifetime of dealing with connotations of XYZ and blah blah blah.
Forget them connotations,
And if I cared about these connotations, I won't leave my house. I will never leave my house. That's ridiculous. I won't do that. I shan't be shackled. Simple as. So my friend says to me, no, I said to my friend, the one whose office I was using at the time, doing some like writing and production stuff. And I said to him, is that okay if I can use the office on a Saturday when no one's there and just like to do my brunches? Like, yeah, sure, no problem. I had a key anyway, but courtesy, respect.
Yeah, you can't just walk in and be like, I own the place, unless you own the place.
Right. So I would go there and I'd cook food in my house where I was staying, and then I'd get on the train and then we go into the office building in Shoreditch, Moorgate, sorry. And then the men would come about 11 and they would sit down around 20 past, and then we'd brunch till about 3 or 4. But then there was always a lingerer or some lingerers because the men who needed it the most are the ones who stayed the longest. The ones who hesitated, the ones who hesitated the hardest, they're the ones who stayed the longest. There's one guy I'll never forget him. And if you see this brother, you know who you are. I love you, but you know this is true.
You want to send this to him?
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. I don't, because he's gonna love it. He'll chuckle. He's in his 40s now, so perhaps mine has shifted a bit. But I saw him. I met him at a barbecue. He asked me, like, "What do you do?" So I told him about Brunch Brothers. And when I tell you, I was going through it. I was still going through it. This was like, dude, you're either gonna die or you get up and do something with your life in it. So it's like, don't stop. Like, so then I'm at a barbecue. He comes along. This guy's like too cool for school. Like, he's just,
nothing can touch me in it. Like,
yeah. And I'm like, cool, bro. So we were in the kitchen, just chatting away for a long time, right? And like people in the garden and and I said to him, I've got a brunch next week. Do you want to come? And so he's like, I'll see. Anyway, eventually he said he'll come. Then he came late. He came at 11:33 precisely. I'll never forget that. And he comes in, he sits down, and at the table, I had an 18 and a 19-year-old, and he was the oldest at the time at the table. He was 31 at the time. So we're going around and we're doing the work that we do at Brunch Brothers. And we get to him and he kind of, I'm too cool for this,
Yeah, nothing's wrong with me, like, at all. Like,
I'm good. What? And then we go around a couple more people. Then we get to the 19-year-old on the other side of the table. And then he spoke, and he's a very quiet character, very humble. And he blew us away with his words, because we were like, whoa, how long have you been waiting to say that? And then the 18-year-old who was sat next to him, he spoke out. Now, what these two young boys articulated, right, were experiences that my 31-year-old friend over here, he understood it, but didn't have the language for it.
To say, yeah. He might have been envious of his boys. He might have been like, why can they do it?
No, he was.
He was.
He was. He was. Because when they were done talking, he goes, actually, I'd like to add something. Now, I kid you not, this man came at 11:33 a.m. He did not leave that building until 7 minutes past 8 that night.
Yeah, you wanted to talk. What happened to being too cool?
Mhm. I'm telling you. So no, it was just one of those things that it came about because I realized that we need to have conversations that go far beyond what you can discuss playing video games or being in the barbers.
Mm.
And actually, at the time, there was a huge narrative going around in the media, just like, oh, you know, the barbers just like the new therapy suite and da 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 da. Respectfully, I disagree. Okay, I've sat in barber chairs where I used to have a hairline, and those conversations involved sport, politics, and ass.
Yeah.
I did not hear men saying, "Wow, like this really hurt me," you know,
Yeah, I
or "Oh
cried
man,
yesterday. Or
or I cried yesterday," or "I felt overjoyed,"
mm.
or you know, I was elated. I'm not saying you have to use that word. And in fact, when they were driving this narrative so hugely, and I said, "You're missing so many men." Because there are men who do go to the barbershop, who do like football, who do like politics, and definitely like us. But unfortunately, they don't operate how you might operate, so they don't feel safe to even speak because outside of those topics I've mentioned, they want to talk about something a little bit more real. But again, you have to be the one who's brave enough to say it first,
Yeah.
right? So I was the one who was in rooms and like all the girls in there, and I've never been there. Anyone who meets me just takes you 2 seconds. You're like, no, he's not like he's not. He's not.
Sorry. Just a reaction.
I'm not okay.
Yeah.
So there are so many men who wear they wear it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Brunch Brothers,
it's their mask.
exactly. And then it comes to Brunch Brothers, and then they don't want to leave.
Mm.
I had a Brunch Brothers right in this room 2 weeks ago, and I had about 6 or 7 men come and join us for a meal. I was like, come at 12, you know, whatever, and then we'll probably wrap it up around 4 or 5 or whatever. Some people do not leave my house until past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've grown in confidence that I'm not going to wait for someone to say it first. In fact, I am going to be the one who goes to that leader and say, brother, are you okay? How is your heart?
Yeah.
Brother, I see you. Yeah. Just this weekend, before we had this interview, I told you about this encounter I had at the weekend at this incredible conference. Do you know the 2 brothers that I mentioned to you, the 2 young brothers? Do you know it was all a matter of just encountering one another, and because of the context we were in, right? We're in church, so this is the place where people are gonna like be like lifting up their hands and singing and praising. So actually, it's not difficult for a man to embrace somebody or open up in that space. But in no minutes at all, we were able to look at each other. There's one Zimbro as well, one of our brothers who I saw there on Friday. Do you know, yeah, I was explaining something to him within the first minute of us meeting. I was explaining something to him, and then he finished the explanation, and I was like, I was like, you get it? And we just looked at each other with like this weird frown, and then we just, you know, because it's like there is so much that we are dying to say, and we just don't even know that we want to say it. What we need is more rooms where we can sit together and look at one another in truth, yeah, without shame, without embarrassment, and with real love to say, I'm going to hold space for my brother because you know what, there's a huge chance of what he's dealing with, I'm dealing with it as well. It's just not manifesting in exactly the same way, which is why I wrote the book. That you know, that was one of the books that we're talking about today, which is an invitation to the table. You know, because now we're celebrating 9 years of getting men gathered around a table, getting schoolboys gathered around a classroom table in school timetable as an official intervention. Across the UK, we've done this. We've worked with boys as young as 9 years old and men all the way up into our, you know, our grandfathers type kind of age group, and it has moved them. So this book is called an invitation to the table because now I'm saying, all right, man, like I've said the hard things first a lot for the last 9 years. I'm now inviting you to open up your table
and say the hard thing first.
And say the hard things first. Set your table, open your front door, tell the man them to come, and then say the hard thing first.
And I think that's always a hard place to be. And I think I've definitely seen some of them cool men that are like, yo, I'm a cool guy. And I think I've even tried to have that persona before, but like it's never really worked for me either. Like because I've been a guy that's probably worn his heart on his sleeve.
Mm,
And sort of I maybe haven't shared everything that I felt because I think, as men we're still socialized to be like, nah, it's all cool. Like, no, it's fine. Like, even as a social worker now, like I think there's things that happen at work where you just brush it off because you're like, it's fine, it's the job. I just deal with it. But like when you sit down and deep it, you're like, yo, actually no, that was kind of messed up. But like you never have that time to actually like sit down and be like, yo, I should have, how do I process this? Like,
no,
how do I even come across this? And I think a lot of men don't have those spaces to be able to start that or have the language to say it. Just like that 31-year-old guy that was in that room, he saw the young ones
correct,
having the language to say it, and he probably was thinking, I could have used that when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. Like, I could have used that
correct,
language,
correct.
and I could have, if I had a space where I could have said that, then he maybe wouldn't have been holding on to it, and he maybe wouldn't have needed that mask. I think the mask is really, I think a lot of men struggle with that, and I think that's a hard
Uh-huh.
thing to shed. And I think as you're saying in terms of with the invitation to the table, it's like, mate, come down, put the mask down. We all put our mask down,
Please.
and let's just talk. Like it doesn't even need to start off deep, but it can literally just be like, yo, felt
No.
sad yesterday. Like it can just be that, It doesn't have you don't have to say everything that's happened in your life, but I think having that
I'm,
invitation.
I'm going to say something, yeah? This is black and raw. I'm
Mm.
black and this is about to be raw. One of the biggest issues that a lot of black men are dealing with and are not addressing, and it's affecting how they exist and operate in the world, yeah, is the contentious relationship that many men have with their mothers
Oh, okay.
and how that plays out in the world. Because you have to look at the character arc of a boy child. Yeah, typical character arc.
Yeah.
Mothers adore their sons. Okay. We are treated like,
Top dollar.
but unfortunately, what happens is the previous generation, they're very like this, there are a lot of dysregulated parents, moms and dads.
Mm.
Yeah. So what happens is everything's all good until there's a fracture up here. And then this boy either becomes adultified too soon, right? Of which he takes on that pressure. I've got to be the man.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
does that look? What does that look like? You're a big boy now. We're telling this to a
You're the
7-year-old.
man of the house. Your dad's gone. You're the man of
You're,
the house.
you're the man of the house now. Your dad's gone, yeah. And then you got mothers who overshare with their sons, and they're burdened with this stuff, and then it shapes how they view women. So you got them operating from two places. There's the place of like, yeah, girls, yeah, that's the carnal part.
Yeah.
There's the carnal part. And then there's the other part where the mother wound, which exists in so many boys and men, the mother wound, yeah. The mother wound gets opened up because his girlfriend said something and it wasn't even that deep. It wasn't actually that deep. But you know what? It opened a scab, yeah,
Mm.
from a gash caused by his mother or his sister or his auntie or his grandmother. But because you can't say that and that my mom's my queen, what do you mean, blood? You mad?
Yeah,
Say something about my mom.
yeah.
Whoa! Say something about my mom. I dare you, blood. Yeah.
That mask has came out again.
It is so difficult to walk that tightrope, but it's a tightrope that exists because now we're trying to figure out who are we, what does the world expect of us, and what is the conditioning we've come from at home. Yeah. And then on top of that, when they have fathers who are equally damaged the same way, and those fathers, they're not communicative. Those fathers, they don't have language. Those fathers, they're not accountable. Those fathers say, I'm your father, you do not speak to me like that. I'm your father, you do not challenge me. I'm your father, you do not take me into account. Or worse, he's just not there.
And there's no one to show.
Worse. There's no showing. And then so what happens? He finds family out there. So whoever's embracing him and doesn't really give him guardrails, right? That becomes his life. That becomes his nature. That becomes how he moves. And the thing is, however he must assimilate to that group, he will do that so that he can have a sense of belonging. And it won't be for however long until it won't be for a long time until he just discovers, oh my goodness, that was never my road. That was never my pathway.
That was never me. Like,
that was never me. And when I've shared some of these things with certain older women in my life, do you know what they said to me, especially about the mother wound, right? They said to me, they said, my nephew said something similar to me. Or like, oh, my son said something similar to me. But it's always said with sort of like a
No, my.
What do you mean? No, not in that. No, not in that way. Not in that way. Not in a dismissive way. In a way of like, really? Oh, I've actually heard this before, but that's intriguing.
Okay.
Because we're used to the narrative of deadbeat man.
Yeah.
We're used to the narrative of unfaithful man. We're used to the narrative of dishonest man. We're used to the narrative of black men die in jail. So the idea, right, that there's another side to us and we can live it proudly. To some people, it's still wow. I'll give you another example. There are two men in my life, right, who are relatives of mine. These men work hard, man, and they provide for their families. These guys are epic, yeah? But married, children, everything. Now, the only reason why they can have the conversations that I had is because we have the rooms that we have.
Yeah.
Right? But their fathers did not directly teach them the things that they're practicing out there. They're not. These men have also had to get over their mother wounds and are still dealing with them today. Another thing that we're addressing in an invitation to the table is that we want to combat isolation and loneliness. So another reason why it's important for these rooms to be created and for us to address the various wounds, the mother wounds, the father wounds, the generational stuff, all of it, yeah, is because as a community, we can do way more together. We can generate language and a movement and an understanding together.
Yeah.
Right? Through conversation. The reason why I feel like I can actually move forward day by day is because there are people I can call, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel scared to use the language that I have.
You don't feel like you can open up to someone, they're not going to ridicule. Can't speak today, it's too warm.
They won't ridicule me. No.
They'll be like, what's up?
No.
What's wrong? They won't brush you aside. And I think that's what men are.
I don't even know. Here's the thing. I don't even know people in my personal circle like that. I know they exist because I've met them. They go to church. But I can get in trouble, but I don't feel any type of way. And I'm so proud that the men around me, they don't feel some type of way because we do have a table and we do have conversations. We sit together, we talk together, we cook together, we eat together, all of it. Yeah. We talk about the wounds. I heard people get angry when I talked about me healing from a certain wound, but they were angry because they recognized that they had the same wound, but they just didn't want to say it. But I'm like, no, you had to say it. That is why we're here.
You're reflecting the mirror back at them. That's like you right. Healing is reflecting that mirror back at them to be like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm going through. And I want to get rid of it or I want to deal with it. And someone else has, and it's like, how do I do that?
But it's an illusion, it's not that I've dealt with it. It is that I am dealing with this, right? There's no easy walk in any of these things that I'm talking about. School was a nightmare being me. School was a nightmare. There's a section in the book where I talk about being the secret friend. Yeah, whoever's watching and listening, get the book, and then you just read. Like
Invitation to
when
the
you
table.
read an invitation to the table, Brunch Brothers, an invitation to the table. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and paperback. Um,
Don't worry, we'll also plug at the end too.
Amen. But yeah, like it's just I'm at a place now where I'm like, okay, I I've done as much talking as I can do in terms of like what my voice has to offer. Now I'm inviting the ears of other men so that they can engage their voice
Yeah.
with other men because I'm not going to run Brunch Brothers Sports Division. I'm not going to do that. We're going to have one, but I'm not going to run that.
Yeah.
Right? We'll have a Brunch Brothers Philosophy and Debate Division. Right? I'm smart, but I probably won't run that either. But there are people who want to talk about Socrates. There are people who want to talk about cryptocurrency. That's not me either. But there is room, okay? There is room for all of those conversations. We just need the right brothers to say, okay, I'm going to open up my front door and I'm going to set my table.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a huge number. I had 6/7. I say 6/7 because I had six for the food, and then somebody had to go, and then someone else came later. So in total, I had seven.
Yeah,
But it's like it's a nice intimate number. And in the book as well, there's an appendix at the back of the book that tells you how simple it is to run a brunch.
and that's beautiful. I think that sort of invitation to the table to be vulnerable, to sort of share what's going on for you. I know a lot of the families that I work with, when I talk about trauma and I can't remember where I heard it, so I'm not saying I came up with it. I wish I did. But they said like trauma is like a bruise. Like you might you might not notice that it's there, but when you hit it against something, you're gonna feel that pain. And I know young people that I've worked with where he's literally had a flashback in the moment which reminded him of his childhood, and he had a panic attack. He went and he retreated, and he had all those trauma symptoms, like, and that was just something small which he would go along his life with, and people might be looking at him, that's weird, that's odd, but because I knew his history, because I knew his background, because he felt comfortable to talk to me, like I could see that with him and have that conversation with him to and then he also realized like, oh, this is what like a flashback is, or PTSD, or trauma. This is how it shows up. And we were able to have that productive conversation. And I think that the discussions that you were having with men at Brunch Brothers, I'm sure is helping them realize that, to be like, oh, so when my missus is shouting at me, it's not my mom. Like it's not, or it's not my dad. Like if someone's griping at me, it's not criticism. They're just asking me something. But as a little kid, someone shouted at you and you viewed it as criticism and you internalized that and you never healed from that. And I think there's a lot of men that are going through that. And I think it is just to say that like it's okay to talk. But I understand why some men don't want to share, because they don't feel like the people around them would receive. I guess what would like, for men that don't have Brunch Brothers or a brunch table, how could they identify someone to be like, I could talk to them, like I could open up to that person?
That's a really good question. I think it depends very much on the way that person is socialized. So like if you're, I don't know, someone who has a job, or so you just go to work and you sort of like got a box standard life or whatever, there are all kinds of forums online, where you can meet people who are like-minded, people that are loving working out together, running together. People are doing dinner things where they go out and meet folks randomly, church conferences, for those, who are interested in that sort of thing. There are so many different things that folks can do who are not like heavily out there. For the ones who are out there, and they know some people, simply just say to the next one, is like, bro, like I want to have a brunch and have some real conversation. Like, you down? I want to talk about real things. I don't want to glaze over important things. I want to talk about real things. you have to be able to be real with the people around you, because how they respond, right? Regardless of how it makes you feel, how they respond, that is data.
Mm,
That is data. You need to be able to look at the data and like spot patterns. Okay, cool. Is this rejection or redirection? I need to understand what this is, right? I'm going to a retreat in a few days' time, right? Myself and two other brothers. And the purpose of this retreat, first of all, to just sort of tidy up some writing and whatever, but then to lie on the grass and to go in the ocean
oh no, that sounds
and,
nice.
and to cook together and to pray together and to watch things and bust jokes and to cry together if the moment calls for it. Yeah. But the years it's taken, and I want to be very, very transparent about this, the years it has taken for me to get to a point where there are a number of people from different sections of my social circle that I can call for different things and say, hey, like I want to pray about this, or like, hey, do you want to go away for the weekend? You know, da, da, da. Or you know, different things. But like, hey, like I'm writing this book, and could you just do me a favor and like read this thing a bit? I don't know if I'm going too far. You know, like the world's gonna read this, and I want. So that's taken years. That's taken years, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of loneliness and isolation. But yet again, this is why I have written an invitation to the table, because Brunch Brothers have not just changed my life, right? It has changed the lives of so many men. And I gave you just a little rundown of just a couple and what they're doing. These men, a lot of them are flourishing and they're living and they're happy. And I really hate that this is a fact, but it's a fact. Last year, within my life, three different sections, completely unrelated, three men died. And each of these men died alone. And each of these men were found no less than a day or two after they had died.
Wow.
So what is it costing? What is silence costing us? What is masking costing us? What is what is that costing us? Don't get me wrong, like when you need to protect, protect.
Yeah,
When you need to step up, step up. Don't get you know what I mean? Like Jesus was not a fool. Jesus was not he was a punk. So you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, gentle doesn't mean that you're punk.
no.
What I'm saying is there's a time and a place for everything, right? And we should allow ourselves time and place to be softer, to understand that, okay, I'm having a really human moment right now. Oh my gosh, wow, wow. You know the mother wound thing I was talking about before? You know, a few weeks ago, my girlfriend said something to me. It was so simple. It was so simple. It was so like she doesn't even know. She doesn't even know that this happened. Yeah, she'll know when she watches this. I went mad in this room. Ah, what is that? What is that? And one of my sisters was here, and she looked like she was gonna come and grip me. She's like, she goes, if this is how you're reacting, this girl hasn't even done what it feels like she's done. You know what that is, and if you're gonna carry on like that, then you shouldn't get married. Whoa.
Yo.
In my house. In my
sister, so
she's my big sister. And she's saying, but no, but the truth of the matter is, my baby didn't say anything out of line. She didn't. It's just an emotional scab that she picked on without realizing. So we need to create time and space and a table so that we can address these things effectively, honestly, lovingly.
And I guess that's the thing where if they're like in your instinct for that matter, if you hadn't been able to recognize that that's a scab wound that had been put over you likelihood is, and I see it in my work every day, you repeat those mistakes and those habits, and then you blame somebody else because you're like, yeah, well, it's your fault. It's got nothing to do with me, but it's got everything to do with you. Like, and that's where women, that's where people trip up. Like, I know we're talking about men today, but it affects everybody. And
Everybody.
women are given the language maybe earlier to be able to say those things. And I think maybe it's okay to see a woman cry, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
women have access. So the thing is, sorry to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
The emotions are all there on the shelf on the same level that everybody can reach. Everybody can reach them, right? But it's like walking into a toy store and there's a blue section, there's a pink section, yeah. But there's something in the pink section, right, that I need to go and get, and then I start to feel subconscious that I'm even going to be seen in a section that's pink.
That's such a good analogy. Such a good analogy. I wish I came up with that.
So no, that's the energy. So you know, so that's like the emotions. They are all there on a shelf, ready for us to take. The language for it is there for us. However, you know, we get discouraged because of what is being demonstrated in front of us, and then when we see someone who's bold enough to do it, instead of saying like, "Oh, right, okay, cool, I'm gonna," you know, they're like, "Hey, man, look at that," you know, it's only when. Right, it's only when number 2 and number 3 and maybe number 4 going on. It's like, okay, you look around. Okay, so I suppose I'll go.
Yeah, I can't be the only one left. Like
I can't be the only one left.
Psychology, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And so I've seen it, and so I'm done. I won't wait for someone to say it first. I won't wait for someone to go first. I will say it first. And you know, I always say in my work when I'm touring, you know, whether it's a workshop room or it's a stage, no matter what size, I always say to people, us as men, there's certain words that we hate. We don't talk about it, not even to ourselves, but we hate. Yeah.
What are some of those words?
We hate the word shame when it pertains to us.
Mm.
Yeah. To admit out loud that you did something that you were ashamed of, even say the other day, you have to pray and repent and do mathematics and a scientific equation, and then you can decorate it verbally with words silent. Yeah. To say a whole bunch of stuff without saying anything at all, instead of just saying, I am so ashamed that the other day I drank way too much and I lost myself. And I need to understand that I'm not good at this drinking thing anymore.
Mm.
It affects everything.
Yeah. That's
just say that.
That's hard, isn't it? Like, and
it is hard.
It is hard, and I think, like, if I'm thinking about what brings shame to myself, I even feel uncomfortable just thinking about what I'm about to say. I mean, I've always talking about my weight loss journey and the way I eat sugar and chocolate and sweets. I feel really shameful about that, to be honest, because it's a lot where I'm just like, I didn't need to do that. Like, and like I'm maybe trying to avoid an emotion. And I think that's what I've been trying to do lately when I've been thinking about things that make me shameful or things that I'm doing. I'm like, what feeling am I trying to avoid? Like, generally, what feeling am I trying to avoid? And that has sometimes helped me. But then sometimes I've done that thinking and then I've still done the thing that made me feel shameful. And sometimes that adds more shame.
Mm-hmm.
And so shame is such a complicated thing to deal with. But when you can name it and shame it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like name it and bring that out.
Well, no, not name it and shame it. It's not even name it and shame it. Name it and tame it.
Mm.
Name it and tame it. I'll give you one more word. A word that we absolutely do not like and we hate and we do not use when we're talking about ourselves. Desperation. Or its synonym, or desperate.
Again. Yeah, no.
Unless you quickly say under your breath, like, oh, I'm desperate for the loo. Unless you're saying that, everything else is like, it's like, no, you will not go there. You will not say, I am desperate. When in actual fact, the case and the truth of the matter is right now, today, we as men, culturally, socially, internationally, we are desperately lonely.
Mm.
When you make a comparison between what a Saturday afternoon in 1995 was like, when your uncles and a couple of cousins would come and shop at the gate with a crate of beers and their lawn chairs, and no one called.
Just turned up.
Yeah. Just turned up. And then they would sit there on the grass, and then lunch would be made, and then games would be played. And sometimes we would even nap and wake up, and people are still doing it. And that was so wonderful because you got the men sitting in the circle there, you got the mums and aunties, whatever, in the kitchen and doing whatever. And then when it was time to serve up the food, like where the boys would sit, us as little boys would go and sit with them and be dipping our hand in the big men's plate. Because if you could eat from the big man's plate, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I've made it.
I've made it. That was 30 years ago. That's where we were 30 years ago. Yeah. Now we're scheduling because, we're scheduled. I'm going to send you.
We're busy.
Yeah. Yes. And then also, people not even knowing what it is that they're going to discuss if they do end up linking up with folks because they're so busy designing their mask every single day and upgrading it like it's a new iPhone. So
don't do that.
I just that's what's having to happen. That is what's having to happen. And so I really strongly believe in my heart of hearts, in my spirit, my being, my soul, that we need to be unafraid of language. We need to take a hold of it. Last year, I delivered a pilot for my giving language program because you don't experience what I've experienced and not write something about it. And I did this giving language program last year, and I had some attendees. It was my first intergenerational project that I did. And we ran it in North London. And there's a young man who was 18 at the time, he's now 19. And he came back to me just a few weeks ago and he said, brother, how can I be involved in GLP? How can I get involved in giving back through GLP? So I said to him, okay, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to put on a brunch, which is the one I had 2 weeks ago. So it was because of him. It's because he showed up. And then I was just measuring against some of the things that I've been experiencing. And I said, it's time to do the thing. So I do believe strongly that we have the access to the language. Just go get it.
Yeah.
We have the tables. We have the tables. Let's set them. Right? If someone says like, yeah, but I can't cook, how am I going to do it? Order from Pepe's Chicken.
Yeah, bro. Uber, you ain't got no excuse, man. Even get your mum to cook for you. Like, if you told your mum you got men coming around to talk about something emotional, she'll cook up a storm. She'll cook it up for you. Son, you got people coming over.
She will cook up a storm and she'll have a glass to the door. Ladies, for those of you who are listening and watching this, yeah, order Brunch Brothers an invitation to the table and share it with the men in your lives. This stuff is transformative. And when I tell you this, yeah, I'm not saying this just because I wrote it. I'm living this. I'm living this because let me tell you something. For me, growing up as a foreigner, undocumented, who does not fit in with the status quo, did not have any kind of social standing for over a decade since moving to this place, I had to figure it out. I had to say the hard things first. When other people wouldn't leave the house, like to go cinema or wherever on their own, I had to do that. I paved the way in that way first, right? So now it's like, no, it's there. It's there. And for all the men who ever, who gave me a hard time when we were boys, all the ones I've seen since then and spoken to since then, bro, it's amazing what you've done, man. The work you do is amazing. These people gave me hell because they were insecure. Can you imagine? But now the conversation's changed. So in the name of moving forward and growing and doing something wonderful, let's stop having a conversation about the conversation, please.
Let's just have the conversation.
And let's just have the conversation because actually I'm so glad you get, can we just get on with it? Because I've been getting on with it for 20 years, and particularly with Brunch Brothers for the last 9 years. And now it's time to move on to the next phase. I've been figuring out, so what's the next thing? Because this is why I want these brothers to open up their front doors and set their tables. Because now I'm looking at the young boys. I'm like, okay, how are we going to engage them in emotional well-being? How are we going to get them, how are we going to give them access to the shelf with the language early before they feel hindered, before they are daunted by, oh my goodness, is this okay for me to say it?
Yeah.
And that is why I did. And that is why I decided that I'm not dropping one book. I'm dropping two. So I created a story, an adventure series, Brunch Brothers Adventures, and this first series is called Four Fires. So book one, also available from June 1st, same place. And, it's a really powerful, fun, adventure story, that has intellectual value,
Mm.
you know, and there's nothing in it that obviously says, we're addressing emotions now. But those four fires, I'm not going to give it away, but those four fires represent four very different young boys, but they've got a very common thing going on between all of them in how they're growing and developing. And so what we want to do now is we want to cancel the the opportunity for boys to need a secret friend when they're in secondary school. You shouldn't need a secret friend to tell what's going on in your life, bro. You shouldn't need that. You should be given language and you should be given floor and space to have the conversation. We're 2026. Can we just
We're
hurry
done
up?
with that. We're done with it. We're done with it.
Please, please. Like, and so those of us who are out here pioneering this work, in certain avenues and channels, like I'm not going to be here forever. So I need the mandem to step up. And some of the mandem right now, they're 7. So guess what? I wrote a book for them boys.
And
Okay.
when they're 20, when they're 16, 18, they'll be standing up. They'll be standing up.
They'll be standing up and they'll be setting tables and they'll be doing brunch brothers in their classrooms with their mates. They'll be doing brunch brothers in church with their, with their church folk, and they'll be speaking.
Yeah, definitely. And, sorry, I'm just warm. So my brain is slowly not thinking correctly. But I'll cut that out.
I had to set a fan all the way down there because
honestly,
I'm gonna, because I shine. I shine. Like today, I'm not doing so bad. I didn't moisturize on purpose before I came on here because I showered and then I didn't moisturize because otherwise you can see yourself in my face.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like shining here. I mean, I've got a light, of course, in front of me because I knew it would go dark, but I'm just like you can see my shirt. Like my shirt does not no longer look white. It looks wet. I did think let me change, but I was like, you know what? I'm just here. Like, who cares? This conversation is more important than how I think I look on screen and on video. And I will probably keep that in because that sort of speaks to what we're doing. No shame, right?
You got to be real, man. Listen, I probably said some things that are on the line of waffles, yeah. But I'm here. I can only bring you the best that I've got today, and I believe that's how you're moving every single day. And otherwise, if I was overthinking it, then there'll be at least 2 or 3 reasons why this interview couldn't happen today. And it's like, no,
let's just do it.
No,
let's just do it.
I took a shower. I shaved my head. That's the best I can give you. Let's go for it.
No, I think you've given me a lot, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, I think we probably need a part 2 of this conversation. And I know, to be fair, I'll hold on. I'll tease it just so the audience can know that it might be coming. But like, I want you to give me just like a short 1-minute description of the play you've got coming up soon. And Lord knows I will be there and we will do an episode 2. And unpack everything. Fantastic. And I won't be sweaty.
Yeah. Fantastic. So my play is called Stories Boys Don't Like to Tell. I wrote the play 6 years ago, and I co-wrote it with a young man called Ellis Witter. At the time, he was 19 years old, and he was one of my mentees. And now he actually operates as one of my peers. So he was part of an internship program that I ran years ago. And we started going through a series of stories, just looking at how we can create narratives on screen and things like that. And then so he shared something with me and I was like, whoa, that's a lot. And then another young man that I mentored, he shared stuff with me and I was like, whoa, that's a lot. And then a few more shared with me and then I had to just frame like what is going on. So ultimately, I wrote a book called Stories Boys Don't Like to Tell. It was made of about 20 stories, thereabouts. And then someone asked me one day, said, have you thought about turning this into a book, into a play? I was like, oh, this is cool. So then when I picked the 5 stories, I called Ellis and I said, let's write this thing. We literally wrote the play in a couple of days. And we put together a cast and we rehearsed throughout the first lockdown on Zoom. And it's a powerful stories that look at identity, looking at belonging, looking at what it's like to grow up as a boy in London. Yeah. Growing up under certain parental dynamics. And also we address some really difficult topics around abuse as well. So, but there is hope. Not necessarily in the story itself, but there is hope in the fact that this play is based on 5 real stories, and all 5 of those men are all alive today. They are all happy today. They are all thriving today, and all those men are happy for their name to be made public, to show people that when we set a table of Brunch Brothers, because that's how all them men met,
Mm.
When we set a table for Brunch Brothers, we make room for a conversation that allows for stories that boys don't like to tell to be told in a theatre, which is the Dugdale Arts Centre in North London, from the 9th to the 17th of October 2026. I can't wait.
And I can't wait to watch it. And I think everything that you're doing is absolutely brilliant. And I think there's lots of things which I'm hoping whatever young boys listen to this, or dad that's listening to this, they're like, you know what, like I need to get that guy's book. Like I need to start having these conversations with my kid. I need to educate myself on my mother wounds, my trauma, and my trauma wounds.
That's it.
To be a better dad.
That's it.
So
for the dads,
go on.
For the dads especially, dads, order an invitation to the table and order 4 fires. Okay, if you've got a son, especially if your son is between like year 3 and year 7, please get the book for your boy. And for all the man them listening, if you're ashamed about this type of conversation, then just order it in secret and have it delivered to your neighbor's house, and then read it in the toilet. Okay. In total, the book takes about 1 hour and 20 minutes to read. I made sure it wasn't long on purpose. If you sit down, you can read it a couple times, in a week, and just really get to set it. But get it. Trust me, you want this conversation. We need this conversation.
We do need the conversation. And I think there's loads of isolation that's going on for our boys and for our men. And I think conversations like these, I think, can hopefully reach the right person, even if it reaches the right person in 2-3 years' time. Like, I think that's one thing that's beautiful about podcasts, is that you can go back and listen to something that was out in 2021 and it can still be relevant to what you're feeling. I really appreciate you for coming on, Ajani. And I guess I know you plugged yourself throughout, but like I want to give you like a proper plug. You know what I mean? Like proper, like put that spark. Like, but listen. Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram, Ajani Kingdom, AJANI Kingdom, KINGDOM. You can keep up with updates for my play, also on Instagram, SBDLTT. That is SBDLTT, which stands for Stories Boys Don't Like to Tell. And of course, check out my 2 books, An Invitation to the Table and 4 Fires, available from Amazon from the 1st of June 2026. That is An Invitation to the Table and 4 Fires. 4 Fires is the children's book, reading age about 7 to 11. And An Invitation to the Table is for everybody.
Nice. Brilliant. I wanted to do the
come on. Every time I go to a gathering and the moms do that, I'm like, oh, bring it on.
You know what? They say to the men who make noises like, grr. And I'm like, bro, like, I can't like make noises as loud as I can do that. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just, I don't care if it's for the women. I'll do it.
As developed men, we've got.
Okay.
So we do a bit of that. But I'll still like, don't get it twisted. Who are you gonna tell? Why are you gonna tell me I can't ululate? What's that?
The celebration, like, come on, like, it's a good time.
That's insane shit. Yeah.
That's more gendered stuff, but we'll be here for another hour on that point.
Right.
So no, Ajani, welcome. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to watching your play, and I'll need to actually look for the links of your book because I think I would want to read An Invitation to the Table. And maybe set up my own Brunch Brothers. There's definitely things I want to do, and I feel like I'm lacking in not doing them. So that is one of my targets this year to do more like in person and community things. I've got the means, just doing it. So
And I will walk you through it. I will walk you through it. That's another thing that I've made an offer in the book. I will walk you through it.
let's do it.
It can be done. Just tell yourself 2.5, 3 hours. Sausages and beans.
Oh, I can cook, bro. I can cook.
No, so can I. I'm just saying for the people who are thinking that you have to do up a big spread. No, get Pop-Tarts. I don't know.
It's something simple. KFC, bro. Like get a bucket.
And gather your brothers. I even have a package of the conversations, guys. I have a handbook. I will give you the handbook. If you reach out and you sign up to be a Brunch Brothers host, I will give you the book, the handbook on how to do it.
There you go, guys. If you want to be a brunch brother, which I recommend, I definitely think you should go for it. So thank you very much for coming onto the podcast, and I hope
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much. God bless you, Tino. Thank you. Cheers. All right, bye.
So guys, that is the episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the Black and Raww podcast. I thought it was a really enlightening conversation. And I love the fact that he's got a book called Invitation to the Table. Come and sit at the table and unmask yourself. And I know that's hard to do. It's hard for me to unmask myself in places. But I think it's necessary for ourselves, for our mental health, for our families, for the people that we care about. And I really, really appreciate you guys for watching this. And, you know, if you want to follow Ajani in what he's doing, then all of his links will be in the show notes. If you want to buy his book, it's out now. So go have a look at that wherever you buy books. And his play in October, I will be there. I can't wait to see it. I'm really looking forward to it because, one, I love plays. You know, I've wanted to be an actor at certain stages, or a director, or, you know, I used to do like shows when I was younger and stuff like that. Like I was that guy, man. I was that theater kid. Like I also played sports too, so I was a bit like Troy Bolton. You know what I mean? Like, can you see Chad? Chad is that a bit more? Nah, everyone wants to be Troy Bolton, man. Like I like Chad, but nah, everyone wants to be Troy Bolton. But you can see a theater kid inside of me. So I really appreciate you for listening to this. I won't continue, I say ranting, far from ranting, but just talking because you've listened to this episode. And I appreciate you for getting to the end of this episode. And I really hope you enjoyed the podcast. Like I said at the start of this, I want to hear from you. So email me here, heard@blackandraww.co.uk. Tell me what you thought of this episode. Tell me what you think we should be talking about. Like, are there topics you want either me to think about and discuss by myself, or like to get a certain guest on? Like, if you guys know people that you think should be on this podcast, tell me. Like, if you think I should be going places and speaking to certain people, tell me. If you think this episode was great, tell me. If you think this episode was rubbish, tell me. The point is, I want to hear from you. So thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Black and Raww podcast. Woo! I love doing this, guys. I love getting behind the camera. I love talking to people, and I really miss doing stuff like this. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much. We will talk soon. Peace.